the pressure and expectation doesn't help me.
Let's say we're talking about Hopper or someone young, right? Would that same mentality work for them?
You would see Frazier, you see Rich, and like the things that they would say or do, like you felt like you had to do those things. If those are the things they're doing, I have to do that. Putting that much pressure on myself, that much expectation, just almost made me not enjoy competing.
But you know, like this who don't know who Travis Mayer is, we get it. You train, you own a gym, you have kids. What do you do? What are you into? Who is this guy?
Yeah, I mean,
we haven't talked to you since semifinals. Where was your headspace, and how was it different this time, if it was at all?
Yeah, I mean, I honestly came into semifinals with not really an expectation of like a certain placement or plan of like where I wanted to finish. Like, right, like I wanted to qualify. I kind of knew that, but it was just going to fall wherever it was. And I knew I wasn't as fit as I have been in the past or some years, just based off of knowing where the Open was, how I felt, the quarterfinals, how I felt, and then like kind of shifting gears and getting into pretty much semifinal shape pretty quick, I think.
Well, hold on. Going back to previous years, you just said that this year you didn't have a placement in mind. You wanted to qualify, no placement in mind. Is that different from all the years?
Yeah, all the other years, right? Like you're like, I want a podium. I want to be in this spot. I want, like, I put more pressure and expectation.
So what prompted the change? Just that you didn't feel good in the Open?
No, I think realizing for myself the pressure and expectation doesn't help me. And like it hinders me more and makes me overthink, be more guarded, cautious than just how I am normally in training, where I'm not thinking about it and I just like hit the go button, where I think sometimes in the pressure situations, I almost second guess and overthink or analyze, which I'm just not good at that. Like that's not how I normally operate. So I think when the pressure is on like that and you think you see other people doing things or going about it a certain way that you almost need to do that, where in reality, like that's just not how I kind of work. And I think it's starting to really understand the way I perform best and the way that's going to keep me in a better headspace, and then essentially qualify on the final day, on the final workout, knowing like that's just what you have to do.
Did that headspace help this year?
For sure.
It did.
I had a much more enjoyable experience. I walked off the floor happier, knowing like, all right, that's just like, that's where my fitness is at. And I don't think I've ever walked off the floor and been like, you know what? I just wasn't as fit right now. But I think taking that pressure off and just like stepping back and being like, look, I'm just not as fit right now, qualify. And then we'll have another 6 to 8 weeks of like full prep to get in even more shape. I think is kind of like a sign of just showing like, look, you just got to trust the process of it. Like it takes time sometimes to get there.
This might be a dumb question or maybe sound rude, but like you've been in the game for such a long time. What do you think it was that took so long for you to have that aha moment? Like how come you didn't do this 3 years ago? Like what?
Man, I don't know. I think a lot of it comes from experience, like truly having failures, having setbacks, having injuries, like all of these things kind of shape you and mold you into like what kind of person you can be and how you respond to adversity and challenge. And that's something like me and Max have always like kind of like joked about with adversity and stuff. But in the end, it's what's allowed me to like continue to keep going for so many years. And I think the goals have to shift, the mindset has to shift, the expectations sometimes have to shift, and you just have to be honest with yourself of like where you're at, right? And getting a gauge of how your fitness is, what things are lacking, what things can you improve on. And I think over time that it just takes a long time for that to happen. And I think 3 years ago, all right, one kid less gym responsibilities, less like there's a lot of other things in life that don't happen that you can put more focus on. And
I was going to say, do you feel like this is a product of kind of where you're at? Like for instance, could you go back to 20-year-old, piss and vinegar Trav and tell him, hey, just don't care where you place and be chill with it, and he would have just rolled his eyes at you? Or forget the roll of eyes at you. Would that advice have been helpful to that Travis?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always try to figure out like what would have clicked more and helped so you would have had a better experience. But I think each time learning is what's made that, right? Like you have to physically, I think, experience it versus like someone telling you, right? Like I could go out there and tell anybody, hey, you should go do this or try this, but they have to experience that themselves for that to happen.
Sure. And that I get, but I guess at the core is it situation dependent? So all the things you have going on in your life right now, let's say you were wound forever ago, like, or let's say we're talking about Hopper or someone young, right? That doesn't have all this.
Yeah.
Could they imply this? Would that same mentality work for them? Or is it just because you do have all this stuff?
Yeah, I think it's just person to person.
Yeah.
I think how they like, I'm more probably like laid back. I like having fun. I like joking. I like making fun of people. Like I enjoy the banter. Like that to me is fun and pushes you and challenges you. Like having Alexis to like push on workouts and then smack talk and those kind of things, I think is something I enjoy. And then sometimes when you get in these high pressure situations of competition, like all that stuff kind of goes away and you like kind of go into like this little bubble and they're off doing their own thing. I'm doing my own thing. And then you just kind of like, you're not really used to that. And so then you got to create these different thoughts and headspace and whatnot to, I feel, learn to get the best out of you. And I think I always felt like, right, like you would see Frazier, you see Rich, and like the things that they would say or do, like you felt like you had to do those things to kind of be at that level. Cause that's right. Like that's what you want to be at. You want to win. You want to do these things. And it's like, if those are the things they're doing, I have to do that, right? I need to feel this much pressure. I need to feel like I'm going to throw up every time, where in reality.
Did you actually feel that way back in the day? If you rewind, you'd watch those guys and you'd be like, shit, I got to do that.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, not everything, but I think a lot of things like you would try and see and you're like, I mean, clearly they're doing it, right? Like they're winning, they're doing the things that you want. I think it relates to any sport, right? Like you watch LeBron or you watch Lance Armstrong in his prime or whatever it was. Like people are trying to figure out like, how do you get to that level? And like, what is it? Is it just mental? Is it other things physically they're doing? Are they trying? Are they eating? Like what other things is it going to be? And I think you just have to experience those things individually and figure out what works for you. And I realize putting that much pressure on myself, that much expectation, just almost made me not enjoy competing and like having fun. And I was more pissed off about the experience. I didn't have fun at the games. And so then you're like, well, now I'm kind of like self-sabotaging myself getting to these events and not actually enjoying it. It's just being there. And then you're having a bad result on top of that. And then it just creates this like bitter taste. So then I think for me, it's like shifting that of like, okay, what things can I do to make that better? And it's like, don't put the pressure and expectation. Like you're not guaranteed anything.
Yeah.
You don't deserve to just have it because I work hard and train hard. It's like, what are the things that you can learn to alter your mindset to put you in a better space? And I think a lot of times that's even like why Max is there, right? Just keeps it lighthearted, keeps it fun. If I start to get away from that, like being able to snap out of it. And it's not easy, right? I think like the mental stuff's almost harder than anything else, and being able to like go in the right frame of mind. Even when me and Alexis did a workout yesterday, like knowing she was just going to beat me on the workout. Like I was just realistic with that and knew like, okay, look, she's going to go ahead and like clearly win, not giving up beforehand. But in the past, I would probably like kind of give up to a degree. I mean, it's still very fit in time, but like
you'd have a defeated mentality.
I would have a defeat. Yeah. Versus what's the closest you can be? Like where can I push in this workout? What's the plan I need to do for separation? Like what are the breaks I need to do? And I think focusing on that more than like feeling defeated because the workout's just perfectly suited for her. Right. Versus like,
and that workout's
if it's
up
wall ball
on YouTube now. You talk about the chest to bar workout?
No, the wall walk thruster.
Okay. I haven't posted that yet.
So I think from that standpoint, just figuring out for each person what works best. And I think over the years, it's like figuring out, for me, that's just not what works. And I think staying in it mentally can lead to a better result at the end of the day if I stay in the correct headspace. So
you stayed back to semifinals, you stayed in the correct headspace. It worked out for you, but there you were with on the last workout, one workout left, and you were potentially going to be cut. So you had all that, your strategy or your mindset was working for you, but you still found yourself in a spot where it was like, oh shit. So how did you handle it then? Then did anything change mentally?
Yeah. I mean, after the handstand walk, I was pretty frustrated with how it just kind of went. And that was probably one of the workouts where I started to overthink. I started to overanalyze. I started to the night before, I had like dreams that I was touching the line on the handstand walk, just weird things. And in the workout, I wasn't even close ever to the line. But like whatever it was in my head, like was almost like on repeat. So it was being able to like, just know I felt like I almost underperformed, but then after the frustration and anger kind of calmed down after a little bit, I like sat back and was like, you know what? Like, I think that's just what I had, because it was tied my same training time. It was the exact same. So I was like, clearly you gave your best in training and that's just what you had right now. These guys are just faster on their hands. And it's like, okay, well, now what do we need to work on going forward? So I think from that standpoint, I was pretty frustrated in the moment, and then knew I've been in this situation before.
Many times.
Yeah. And knowing what you have to kind of like call on internally.
What do you have to call on internally? So because this is your fourth time with one
care.
Workout left.
Yeah. You just can't care about anything. Like you can't have any fear. You can't have any hesitation. You can't second guess your strategy or whatever you're trying to do. Like, you have to go faster on the bike than probably what you want to, than what you did in training, because there's no other choice now. Like, most of the guys are going to be biking pretty hard. You just have to hope and pray you can hang on for the 15 muscle ups and don't hit some point of fatigue, and then hang on to the dumbbells. And I kind of knew, I was like, this is going to be really close at the end of trying to bike potentially 5 to 8 seconds faster, which doesn't seem like a lot, but you do 30 cals 5 to 8 seconds faster. It's a big difference feeling wise going into 15 unbroken muscle ups. So you get to the muscle ups, finish the muscle ups, and I kind of knew I was like second or third picking up the dumbbell, and it was like, just get to the point of walking and like just go. And then at the end, you never know how it's going to unfold, and it's different because this format's different than in the years past, where like no matter what, I was in the final heat, right? Like, so you would always know like where you really are. There was still heat to go after me, so I didn't know.
How'd you feel when you finished? Did you think I locked it in? I
was 25 seconds faster than what I did in training. So I was like, I can't really ask for much more. I think I paced it appropriately for me. The muscle ups, I went unbroken. That was a good win for me. Then going into the lunge, like I went a little slower due to how many no reps they were giving people in the previous heats of like just stutter stepping, not standing all the way up, whatever dumb reason. So I just hesitated at the top for a millisecond to make sure that those were always clear. But yeah, I think it wasn't till I saw Tyler pace off the first bike that I knew he kind of went slower, but I figured he was just going to lunge super fast and make up a lot of time. And then I knew Carone was the one I like had to beat. And I knew he went full send and did what he needed to and crushed it. And so I was like, well, now I really don't know, because I didn't know how far. I just knew Carone was in front of me on a point wise of like where I needed to be. So I didn't know until the very end how the leaderboard kind of shifted from that standpoint.
So you were completely blind until they called your name?
Pretty much.
Wow.
Yeah. When I saw them kept panning the camera over at the top, I was like, I have to be close. Like, but I don't know how close. Yeah. I was like, if this comes down to like 1 point, and I've missed twice by like 1 point. So it's not a fun feeling of being like on the edge like that and missing out by just skin of your teeth. But I think I did what I needed to do, and I just kind of trusted that I could do it, and here we are.
And this was the first time your family has ever been.
Yeah, that would have sucked. They came and watched the whole thing, and then, Dad doesn't make it. But no, it was a better story that they were there and got to see it. They got to come surprise me.
What was that like? I mean, that has to be different.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's cool when you look up and you like just see it, they're there. I'm not used to seeing my wife or kids, right? Like I look up and I see Max, a big bald man, right? Like there's not usually like the family that's there that you like love and adore, like they're just sitting there watching. And the fact that like Will was able to get them down to the finish line and see the final event, I think was like pretty special and qualifying. And like, that's what made it like really special moment to.
And they surprised you, right?
Yeah. So that, I guess Saturday night, we finished the events and I was texting her, and they were supposed to be at a birthday party because I knew there was a party that Thaxton was supposed to go to. And I was like, well, we'll just talk, whatever, when I get back. So we get back, and I like kind of saw this car that looked like Lauren's car off to the side. I was like, well, that's weird, whatever. I was like, why? Like, they're at a party. And then I come around the corner of the Airbnb, and it's like in this condo or whatever, and they come walking out and surprise me, which was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was nice.
Complete shock. Well, I guess if you hadn't seen the car.
Yeah, if I really didn't see the car, I think it would have been even more shock. But it was just like, it was almost like the wheels were turning. Like, why is there a car here? Like, it kind of looks like her car. But I was like, no, it can't be.
And after the win, when you went and hung out with them all, was there any awareness? You know, because they're all young. So was it like, we're bored?
Yeah,
where's the iPad? Or were they like,
no.
This is crazy, Dad's awesome?
Yeah, they don't have iPads. But the older two kind of get it. The younger two are just, even when I finished, like, in the stadium, I think my 4-year-old was like, I got to go pee. Like, he was talking about how he's got to go to the bathroom. And then the other one was talking about how she got a box of cereal. Like, just the things that, like,
Perfect.
they think. Yeah. And you're just like, you know, all right.
Yeah.
Dad worked hard here. But I think it's always cool that it just kind of, like, takes my mind off of it. And then they came back and we all hung out. And it was pretty fun that everybody got to be together and experience the qualifying.
Are you taking that same approach into the games as far as your mentality around placement? Do you have any?
Yeah. I mean, I think I don't personally have a number expectation of like where I plan to finish or want to finish. I think for me, I'm still pretty fit and still feel like I can contend. And I mean, even our region, like, is kind of the top people in the sport right now. So I think it's like a good indicator. I mean, I think it would be awesome to beat a top 10 finish just based off of like having your best year. I think would be
your
really
best finish was 10th, right?
Yeah. So I think anything you could. There's Nicole. She just pulled up. But I think any time you could do better, right? Like, is always fun. But I don't feel like I have the full pressure of like having to do that. Like, I think getting to do this, enjoying this, realizing like this isn't going to last forever kind of thing. And I think the more I can continue to enjoy the competition and the whole environment and experience, I think is going to lead to me performing better and feeling better. And then being able to walk away whenever that is of like, oh, okay, like I did that. Like, now I'm happy with that. Where usually I walk away and I'm like pissed because I didn't get the result I wanted, or I had too high of an expectation, or it was too unrealistic, or whatever it may be. And I think a lot of that is just the mental side of how you prepare for it. Yeah. And I've started like working with a mental coach lady. And I think part of even one of the things she was like, based off of how you explain everything, she's like, your expectations, just like, what makes you think that you should have that?
Have what?
Like, why do you think you should take second or first or whatever? Like, why? She's like, everybody else is working hard. You know, like, just talking more sense into like the logic behind it of like my brain and like how it actually thinks versus just like, okay, well, those people are working hard too. Why don't they deserve it? You know, like what's showing up? Like, how are you handling the adversity? And she's right. Like there's been times where like even the last games where it was the first event, we worked so hard on cramping, and because I would have like quad cramps, hamstring, something random on the first bike. We didn't have any cramping the entire season leading up. Then on the first event, that bike event, I had a double quad cramp and then ripped my hands on the chest bar. And I haven't ripped in years. And I'm like, this is literally event 1 of like 15. Like, what is happening? Event 2, climbed the pegboard.
This was 2 years ago, right?
Yeah. And then ripped my hand to shreds on the pegboard. And you're like, we are literally 2 workouts in to this. And then I just spiraled. Yeah. Like, mentally. And right, like I came back, took 12th, but it was not a fun experience. Like, I didn't enjoy it. And it's like, I think if I can learn to.
God, and that was the year you were on fire, right?
Yeah.
God.
But that's the thing, right? Like, what are the things that I can do? And I think part of that is just the expectation. Like, being able to shift the mindset and the focus of like where I'm putting the energy into something else and keeping that the focus, I think would allow me to look, okay, I have 13 events left. You can come back and fight back. And if I fight back to 12th, you could have potentially fought back to a 5th, right? Like, you never know. Like, and that's always like the hindsight, right? Looking back. But I think those experiences have led me to like learn a better way for me to go about it and plan.
I think everybody in this building appreciates the fact, you know, how long you've been in the game, and you know, podiums aside, it's just you've been there year after year after year, which is something not like Noah did that, and everybody respects that. But it's not like a thing that's talked about a lot, and I don't think because it's not as shiny, but it is super cool. I'm wondering, how do you feel about that? Is that oh, cool, Chris? Yeah, I've been in it for forever, or is it like
just how long I've been in it and done?
Is it a point of pride? Do you care about that? Is that cool, or is it like,
no? I mean, I
don't give a shit. Get me on the podium.
Yeah, no. I mean, I think when I was younger, right? Like that's all I wanted. Where now, I mean, even when me and Max first talked, it was like I don't want to be kind of like a one-hit wonder, right? Like you have one good year and you're done, and you kind of disappear. It was like I want to be in the sport for a long time. I want to continue to keep getting better and evolving as the sport evolves. And I mean, I think having Training Think Tank and the entire environment of being able to do that for as many years, and there's not many people that, granted, have 4 kids, own an affiliate, and then still train full time. So I think being able to do that as the sport keeps evolving and changing and adjusting and being able to stay there, I think for me is kind of like, you know what, you've done something that like not a lot of people are able to do. And I think it's pretty cool. I mean, I would love to have some better performances that I think I personally would be happier with, but that's also an expectation, right? So I think it's like this fine line of trying to shoot for something, but not like making that the sole focus. And then if that doesn't happen, like self-sabotaging and destroying yourself over that. Yeah. Where I think there's so much more to it. And I mean, at the end of the day, we work out for a living, right? Like it's a pretty cool job that what we get to do, right? Yeah. I get to come in here. I have an awesome wife and kids at home, and I get to go home each night and go hang out with them and do things. I get to travel the world. I get to work out. I have some really awesome sponsors. I got meet a lot of cool people. I've done a lot of neat things that not a lot of people get to do just from working out. And I think you have to appreciate those things at some point. And I think if you always are wishing for more or wanting more, you don't ever truly appreciate it. And I think I've slowly started to appreciate it more and more now.
What do you do in your free time?
I don't have a lot of free time.
What did you do in your free time? Like people watching this who don't know who Travis Mayer is. We get it. You train. You own a gym. You have kids. What do you do? What are you into? Who is this guy?
Yeah, I mean, I've always really loved motorcycles. I mean, I grew up racing motocross, so I always enjoy like riding, and I would love to get back like on a bike, but I know if I was on a track, that wouldn't end well, most likely. Like the risk to reward there is just too high. So I really enjoy that.
Got a favorite TV show, movie? Not the. Just so people know who you are.
I mean, I like a lot of sports documentaries. I don't watch a lot of TV shows. That's not really like me and Lauren will sit down each night and probably watch something for about 30 minutes and then we go to bed. So
what was the last thing y'all watched?
Right now we just finished the Tour de France documentary, and then I just started the Lance Armstrong one, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Guys, have you seen it?
No, I haven't. I've heard good things.
Yeah, guys, kind of crazy.
What was the last TV show you remember watching?
TV show?
Like a proper series that's not sports.
The Big Bang Theory?
Dang, okay, so it's been a while.
Yeah, I feel like that was forever ago. Other than that, no, I like a good Wheel of Fortune occasionally and Family Feud.
Oh yeah? What do you think about Pat Sajak finally peacing out?
Yeah, you know.
I've turned it on from time to time, like within the last 3 years. Yeah. And every time I turn it on, you could tell that dude hates his job. Yeah. It's like when you walk into a Chipotle and they don't make eye contact and they're just trying to shoo you along. That's what Pat Sajak has felt like on Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, like, he's bothered that you're there trying to spin the wheel. Like, dude, can we get someone else up there?
But I like the game. It's always fun.
Yeah.
I like golf. I like golfing a lot. It's kind of nice. Like being out in nature, hitting.
Yeah.
Just playing.
And what were you into back in your like high school days?
Motocross. That was where all my time was back then. I've always been 100% or nothing kind of person. So like if I'm fully into something, like that's all I kind of do. And then before that, it was basketball. And then before that, it's probably a little bit of track and baseball. I feel like it just kind of like.
When you were a kid, did you have any like shows that you watched? Like what were you into as a?
Power Rangers.
Power Rangers?
I was a big Power Ranger guy.
Did you ever know that you'd grow up to end up filming a Power Rangers video?
No, I didn't. My kids think it's awesome.
For those wondering what we're talking about.
I feel like you have to
you
have to add that in
actually, you know what? You tell the story of how you remember that coming to be.
Oh, my God.
Because it's still one of the least watched videos we've ever made, but it's hands down one of the best.
So this was Was this the first year in Madison?
2019.
Right, it was first year in Madison, I feel like.
I don't know if it was first year.
Second year.
Yeah.
Because it was that other house. That first house was with Noah.
Yeah.
So the second year in Madison, Chris had this idea of creating a superhero kind of Power Rangers match. I just remember coming back from some athlete orientation or getting our clothing or something, and we would have to go film stuff at the park, and then watching Max run up this steep hill and yell, and then acting scenes of fighting on the playground, and what was the
video
peanut butter, right?
The peanut butter, yeah. So the premise is we had a couple days ahead of time and we're bored, and what was that, the day before the games? Yeah. And so we filmed this video, which you'll just have to go watch, but the way that the audience received it, my camera died, by the way, so you're welcome for not seeing my face. But the way the audience received it was that after day one, so the games is going on, day one ends. Immediately as day one ends, we publish a video that says day one's recap video. And then it's this, where Trav is a Power Ranger, which, I mean, no one's come close to doing something that cool, right?
No, it definitely has topped all the videos I've ever done.
Nice. Well, anyway, how's training been before we get out of here? What's this past since semis been like?
Yeah, semis has been good. We've had a lot of fun. Linda's been here, Alexis, so it's been good to have a good group. Gilpin jumping in on a lot of things, and then so I think it's just fun when you get, of course, multiple people training and under the same roof for the same kind of like goal. You get to do a lot of fun things, and for me, that's what I've always enjoyed about games training more than any other type of the year, because you get to swim, you get a bike, mountain bike, paddle boarding. You just get to go use your fitness. And I think sometimes that's the stuff that I wish we did more of, but I get it, right? Like the masses can't do that. There's not 30 yokes in a class and other things like that. So, but I think those are the fun things, the sandbags, the farmer carries, all the odd object stuff, the heavy barbells, the speed ladders, like those are the things that are fun to like test and see and really get to see what you're capable of doing. So yeah, I just enjoy this time of year the most. I know we do a lot right now, right? You get kind of like really one rest day, but not really a rest day, but it's just fun when you get to start doing this and then you feel the fitness building. And this is what you always compare it to, is like this time of year and you're like, oh, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. Like at the Open, I was not anywhere close to this, but just showing what can happen in 12 to 15 weeks leading up to this point of how much fitter you can get in that time.
I think that is good for everyone to hear, because all of y'all are basket cases after the Open, like, oh, I'm not anywhere close to where I need to be, blah, 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 blah. And then you just always turn it around. Yeah. And
I mean,
it's probably good for everybody to know your fitness goes in waves.
Yeah, it's just like an up and down. And I mean, you can't stay in this phase. Like your body just couldn't handle it year round. So you have to be smart with how you go about it. There's definitely different times to pick it up, to slow down, listening to your body. I mean, the Open was the worst ever finish I've ever had. And then I slowly just progressively got fitter and fitter as you kind of get closer to like when it's time. But it's also being in the game long enough and knowing that and trusting myself that I can get back to where I need to. I feel like it just doesn't happen as fast now. Like it's just a little slower, maybe because I'm getting older or what. But it definitely takes a little longer to get to that point. But I mean, even we talked to Alexis before, like we would be in the back or just like training and then talking. And then she's like, yeah, I just don't know where, like, I don't feel that fit right now. And I'm like, look, you literally just won almost the Open and quarterfinals, like back to back. Like you're fine. Like you're okay. And you still have 5 weeks. But I think everybody has those doubts, right? Like every athlete in some way, shape or form, there's always some form of doubt or hesitation that creeps in. And it's just being able to handle that and continue to keep getting better and evolving.
3 more things.
Yeah.
They just came to mind. We're going to potentially film a day in the life next week.
Si, senor.
So that'll be cool. We've never done one of those.
Yep.
You got an interesting life?
I do. You can see.
I guess you'll find
you
out.
can see all the hobbies that take place when that happens.
Second, last thing. Who up-and-coming youngsters, and don't name anybody here because I don't want it to sound biased, but what up-and-comers in the CrossFit space, the young guns, are impressing you?
I don't know if I know enough of them to really answer that. Like, I mean, I think there's definitely people like at semifinals and stuff that I think are like that young, or are you talking like teenage division?
Just someone who's not been
up?
around for forever. Yeah. Like someone who's been on the scene for a year or two.
I don't know. I feel like I'd have to actually think about that one. And like honestly kind of like look back at the names on the leaderboard, because then that would kind of like spark the
maybe I'll ask you again during your day in the life.
Yeah, like to actually think about like who that person could be. I mean, there's definitely going to be some, right? Like I think the sport's kind of phasing some out, and then it's all new generation kind of like coming in. Like the fact that I'm literally the only guy from 2013.
Do you feel like Woody?
Yeah.
To their Buzz Lightyear?
Yeah, kind of like, right? Like I'm not old, but I'm like the old guy to them, right? But I don't really care. Age is just a number. I'm still going, baby.
Yeah. And if you watch those movies, Woody's still the shit. So
he is. Everybody loves Woody.
Last thing, I know you don't want to give her props, God forbid, but
who?
Alexis Raptis. Tell the people what the heck to expect from this woman. An inside look. You train with her every day.
Girl's fit, man. She is very fit. I try not to let her ever get any wins, just to keep her on a level playing field with ego and not ever getting too carried away. But I mean, she's just a good person. I think she's in a much better headspace, the focus, the determination right now of like where I think she can finish is going to be, my assumption would be a podium going into this year. I mean, I think it's right. She had the leader jerseys some last year. I think that like creates the fire and excitement of knowing like what you're capable of doing. Now you're fitter, you're more confident in your abilities, you trust yourself more, you've tackled your weaknesses more. I think watching it, she definitely has probably more just like the confidence of knowing that you can do it. And then knowing how to handle the adversity, the challenge, and then knowing it's going to be hard, like already at some point experiencing that, I think gives you steps above everybody else that's like never put on that jersey and knows what the pressure's like doing that. So I think my assumption would be a podium for sure.
Do you get any, what's the word I'm looking for? Do you get any like satisfaction when she does good, like knowing like you're in there with her and you're part of that journey with her?
If she does well and I don't, it's not a fun feeling. That's just me being honest.
But once you get back and you can remove.
Yeah. No, I think, once you can remove that. But hopefully we both have a great year. But no, I mean, I think, right, you want to see the person you train with kind of like on a daily basis do well, right? Like you're more invested in them than I am anybody else out on the floor, right? Like I'd rather Linda do well than some other people, right? Like you just get to know them. You get to see how they react. Like you get to know them as a person, where you don't get to do that with everybody. So of course you're way more biased for who you are rooting for in that situation.
Now you just wrapped up the CrossFit media bias.
Yeah. Yeah.
They know those people, so they're going to keep focus on them.
Yeah, but
what do you think about your media guy not getting a pass this year?
I think it's garbage.
Well, that's all the time we have. See you, Trev.
Adios, sir.